Ma'am, please unmute. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Clearly,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We
clearly.
can hear you.
Okay, great. And it is now on YouTube Live, and I will just request Dr. Nandini Kumar to also unmute and speak for a second so that we are sure that your voice are audible. Okay. So everybody, Piyush is having the issue because it is a special mode. So you will have to unmute everybody who will be speaking. Otherwise, it's a good idea to make them co-host so that they do not have this problem. Can you please make Professor Bhatnagar co-host and Dr. Nandini K. Kumar as co-host?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello, Piyush.
Sonia, I can't see Professor Y.K. Gupta ji, Vani, and Jory ji. I could see Krish. Please see how we can join them.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We have 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It is a good idea to admit all. Piyush, could you do the...
I'm doing it, ma'am. I'm doing it. Just making sure that everybody is mute after joining, mute participants upon entry. Piyush, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
we
Yes,
can
ma'am.
hear you. There is an
Piyush,
option. Good morning and namaskar to one and all. Thank you so much for joining this GCPPCS Awareness Program webinar today. May I kindly request Professor Shinjini Bhatnagar, who is the Distinguished Professor at THSTI, Translation Health Science and Technology Institute, Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, to kindly do the honor by welcoming this August gathering. Over to you, Professor Bhatnagar.
Thank you, Sucheta. Good morning to everyone. A very warm welcome from CDSA THSTI to the and was initiated by CDSA THSTI, inaugurated by the then Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, on the 75th year of independence and of India. And we at THSTI believe very strongly that there should be more people getting interested in doing clinical trials, following all regulatory and ethical norms. And therefore, it's very heartening to see that there are over 500 registrations today for this course. And we do hope that this learning through the webinars would be of immense value. And inaugurating the whole series and welcoming the experts and all the members, we hope, and it's a really good start and happy learning to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Bhatnagar, for this wonderful welcome address by you. I'm sure that It's well begin, and it will have a very nice ending to this. And this is a really new initiative of this. Thank you so much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have the pleasure to request and invite Dr. Nandini K. Kumar, who is the former Deputy Director General of Senior Grade at Indian Council of Medical Research. She is the President presently of the Forum for Ethics Review Committees in India, FERCI, and she's a Distinguished Scientist Chair at the Ministry of Ayush to kindly speak on give the opening remarks. Over to you, ma'am.
Namaskar and good morning to all. Thank you, Sucheta, for that introduction. In fact, this program is a great program once it starts. We have an army of researchers in the country, which includes the Ayush systems as well. So it is high time. It is very difficult to teach GCP in, small groups, like that, whatever you may say, maybe 100, 200, 500, even that is not enough. So we need to have institutions which would give a training, and that would be on familiar ground, similar framework, and that would actually go in for the standards. And this probably is the course first in the world having the ISO standards. It took a long time for it to form. A lot of labor went in, but when it took its final shape, again, there were some problems. But I'm very happy to see that it has been launched now. And I do know that there are many, many people who are interested in it, some institutions which are also interested. And it would be great to have some of these institutions churn out the program, what we say, with the ISO standards. With that, I wish the whole program great success, and wish you all a happy learning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request Dr. Sucheta to take this over. She's a principal scientist too, and chief of training at THSTI, and she's the one who
Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you. That's it.
I don't have words to express
Thank
for
you.
her, but I request her to kindly begin with the session.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And may I kindly request you to check if Professor Anil Johri ji is also there?
Yeah, he's there.
Good morning once again to all of you who has taken your precious attending this webinar. And this is a long by Professor Bhatnagar and Dr. Nandini K. Kumar just now. It has been a long struggle for us to do something, but anything which endures such hardships actually yields a good result. I'll give a small overview, which will be by me and Shri Anil Johri ji, and this will help you in understanding this. Our journey began a decade ago when we were entrusted by various government agencies to train and build the capacity and capability of clinical research, including clinical trials in India. When we started with this journey, we were actually working with ethics committee members, investigators, CRCs, CRAs, many of the other stakeholders. And that time we started training on the Indian OCDS GCP 2001 and the ICH GCP that time. I think it was R1 that time. Then came the new drugs and clinical trial rules 2019, and that had mandated that all people who are in any capacity, especially the ethics committee members, must be GCP trained, otherwise they will be disqualified. As you all know who have joined us today's session, that GCP is an international standard for ethics, quality, and safety, and it is a very, very important standard which guides people to research, which has two tenets of that: the right, safety, and well-being of all study participants are protected, well protected, and the data that is generated is credible and accurate. So with this birth of NDCT rules 2019 came our dream and desire to have something where we can ensure people are GCP trained, because GCP compliance is now necessary, and it has a statutory requirements as per the NDCT rules, page number 151, 2019. We started working with this regulations, and we started working with all the guidelines and regulations that govern that. And we also had the ICMR's National Ethical Guidelines for human participants as well for pediatrics launched earlier in 2017. We also worked on the different accreditations by NAPH, from the Quality Council of India, from the Sitkar for CAP and AHAT, to find out that what are the prerequisites we should have to ensure that all people who are GCP trained can be put on a uniform platform and can be judged based on their, some kind of certification system. Because some people get GCP trained while working, some people get it in 1 hour, somebody get in 15 minutes, somebody in 2 days, and somebody in 1 week. It's quite an ununiform ways of teaching GCP. And nevertheless, if there is a system which can test them, then that will serve as a big important tool in understanding that all possesses a particular minimum requirement or competence requirement. We approached Quality Council of India, especially National Accreditation Board for certification bodies. Shri Anil Johari ji was that time the CEO of NABCV, and he mentioned about the scheme of 17024, which is a professional certification scheme. And we came to know about that, how we can work on that, work with the people who request for public comments, compile those things, and then we would like to launch that and dedicate to nation, as you heard Professor Bhatnagar mentioning this. So on the 75th Independence Day of India, our Honorable former Secretary, Dr. Renu Swarup ji, dedicated this to nation, and it was a beginning of ours to work towards a greater public good. We also had a series of interactions on the development of many documents, and I thank all the people who have worked towards giving the public comments from various agencies and stakeholders. We felt that there is no such a personal certification scheme available for people in clinical research in the globe, and that's why we started believing that we are the first in India to do it for global. So made in India for the world. And we felt that somebody else could have done it, but if nobody is doing it, it is best to start from your own. So at CDSCT HSTI, we assumed a higher role, or we climbed up the ladder to become the scheme owner. It's a huge responsibility for an organization like us, but we had a dream that we can benchmark the GCP professionals and start something from India which the world will follow. In Indian scenario, there are many areas where there are regulated, and there are many areas which are voluntary. I always say that quality is voluntary in nature. Going to school is mandatory, but getting that gold medal in the class was never compulsory. All people who thought themselves and worked hard, were sincere, and of course luck plays a role, were the ones who got the gold medal. So getting accreditations or a personal certifications is a voluntary scheme. It is not a regulatory scheme. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested, you should aspire to become the best. So CDSCT HSTI followed the example which are set by others in the field. You can see some are regulated sectors, some are voluntary sectors, and India already has been working in many areas, including Ayush and yoga certifications. We felt that we did a huge, I think if it took a long time to do a SWOT analysis for ourselves, we know our strength, we of course know our weakness. We know there lies a sea of opportunities where India becomes the most populous country in the world with the highest number of young population. With this, there comes a lot of responsibility, and there are a lot of threats of how to do that. So knowing all this, we definitely have jumped into the river and started swimming. And I am sure that with the strength of all of you together working on this area, we will surely be able to strengthen and make India proud of it. We believe that GCPPCS is first of its kind because we do not have any reference of any such personal certification system for good clinical practice or clinical research in India as of now, which has a lineage to the international standard of 17024/2012. And my organization, CDSCT HSTI, Department of Biotechnology, is the scheme owner for that. Recently, on 2nd November, we had the pleasure of meeting our present Drugs Controller General of India, and we had apprised him about GCPPCS and all the initiatives that we are doing, because we are also a WHO Center for Excellence for enhancing the clinical trial capacity and capability in India, together with ICMR and DBT institutes. And we felt that GCPPCS should be based on competency, which is knowledge, skill, and applications. And people who will churn out them from those certification systems will be uniform in nature. And that can benchmark the system of personal certification in India. So this system is based on 3 areas. We have a standardized curriculum, which we call it minimum standard of competence. It is also based on skill and personal attributes. Of course, it's based on knowledge, training, education, and qualification. I will invite Sri Anil Johari, who is the former CEO of NABCB Quality Council of India, and he's presently the chairperson of the steering committee at GCPPCS, to kindly speak to all our August gathering about the process center. Over to you, Johari. Piyush, you'll have to make Johari and Professor Y.K. Gupta and Vani as co-host so that they can speak.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you all of you for keeping the mic muted. That makes a huge difference to us. Johari, can you hear me? Would you like to take it from here?
Yes, ma'am, he's there. He's there. I think we can't. We have to unmute him first. Ask to unmute. Piyush, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
morning.
he's there. He's there. Good morning,
No,
sir. Good morning.
yes.
You please take it
So,
forward.
good
sir.
morning, everybody. Let me take it from here for some time. So this is the setup of the scheme. This is an international model where there is somebody who is a scheme owner. In this case, CDSA, which is part of THSTI, is the scheme owner. The scheme owner itself has a certain amount of governing structure, how the scheme will be governed. So typically internationally, we require that all such schemes should be made with multi-stakeholder consultation. All stakeholders should be involved. And one way of demonstrating that is that you involve all stakeholders in a committee. In this case, that is the steering committee, which has all the stakeholders. It has government, it has regulators, it has professionals, it has organizations like NABH, NABCB, and I happen to chair the steering committee since it was set up in 2020. Then there's a technical committee. Professor Gupta, I think he's speaking today. He is the chair of the technical committee, which is composed of experts who are technical experts in the area of GCP. And they create the technical documents. The basic document is the competence standard for professionals, as also the criteria for the training institutions. This scheme has 2 parts. It will certify professionals. It will also accredit training institutions. Then there is an assessment committee, and chair is one Mr. S. Krishnamurthy. He's also, I guess, present, although he may not be speaking in this program, which is composed of experts like some of them are like me, who don't know GCP, but who know how certification schemes are made, how assessments are done, how certification schemes are run internationally, especially the personal certification part. Then internally, there is a review and decision panel, because this CDSA would approve personal certification bodies on one hand, accredit training institutions on the other hand. Somebody internally has to take decision. So there is a panel for that. And there's an appellate authority, because if some decisions are not done properly, it's an international practice. Every organization which takes decisions about others should have a mechanism for appeal, so that if a decision is to be contested, it can be contested by those who are affected by the decision and can appeal. Now, one role is being played by NABCB, which is part of Quality Council of India, where I was CEO once upon a time. NABCB accredits inspection and certification bodies as per international standards. Those international standards are usually made by ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. In case of personal certification, the standard is ISO 17024, which describes how a body which certifies people should be structured in terms of impartiality, because any evaluation body has to be impartial first thing. Any certification body, any regulator, any accreditation body, they have to be impartial first thing. Second is that they should be competent in that area, which is the area of GCP in this case. Third, that they should apply the same process consistently. It can't be that in one batch I set up a very easy question paper, everybody passes, and the next one I set up a very difficult question paper and everybody fails. So you have to maintain a uniform process, a fair chance to everybody to succeed. So NABCB will provide that expertise to us, because NABCB is also part of an international system. NABCB accreditation provides international acceptability also to our evaluation process. The GCP standard is one. The evaluation process under GCP will follow the international best practice. There will be independent bodies. Right now we have one, Northeast Christian University, which has been approved. So any of you who wants to be certified as a GCP professional should go to NECU and request them to conduct an exam for you and certify. And these certification bodies initially are provisionally approved by CDSA, because initially they can't get accredited because they have not started yet. Subsequently, they'll be asked to go through accreditation process. So in a year's time, 2 years' time, they'll be accredited, duly accredited as per 70,024. As a professional, you go to these PRCBs, you don't have to come to CDSA. CDSA is overseeing the system. On the other hand, there will be training institutions. We are yet to start there, who would provide training, because there are people among you who would probably think they already have the competence. So there's no need for them to go through training. They can go to the personal certification body. Hello. Okay. So they can go to the personal certification body directly and get certified. Some of you may feel there you do not have that knowledge, sufficient knowledge to be certified. You need some input of training, and therefore there will be training institutions. And as Sucheta has already explained to you, who better than CDSA, who has been in this field for several years, to take on a higher role and accredit training institutions so that we can spread training around. In India, country like India, no single organization can really do everything by itself. So there will be accredited training institutions, which will be accredited by CDSA. So this is the whole structure of the scheme as it is today. Next. So this is NABCB. NABCB is part of, as I said, part of an international system. In our word where I worked, we say that in God we trust, the rest all have to show evidence. So none of us are accepted without an evaluation. NABCB also gets evaluated every 4 years, and it gets evaluated by the regional body, which is called Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. And Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation in turn is a member of International Accreditation Forum, which is an international body. NABCB is also a member of IAF. And IAF has an evaluation of the regional bodies every 4 years. Incidentally, I have been an APAC evaluator. I have evaluated other accreditation bodies around the world. And currently, I am an IAF evaluator, evaluating a region. So as you can see, IAF evaluates the regions evaluate the accreditation bodies evaluate the certification bodies, the certification body evaluate the persons or organizations or systems or processes. So the whole chain is being evaluated, and the whole chain is following international standards. NABCB follows as international standard. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here it's a pictorial depiction. As you can see, I've shown 3 regional bodies. Europe has 1, Asia Pacific region has 1. Both the Americas put together have 1. There are 2 more. One is called African Accreditation Cooperation, which comprises of all African countries. And there's another one called Arab Regional Accreditation Cooperation, which comprises Arab countries, both in north of Africa as well as in Asia. So there are 5 recognized regions. All 5 are evaluated by IAF every 4 years. And these regional bodies, India falls under Asia Pacific region. So NABCB is a member of Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. We have another accreditation body which is more popular and more known. I am sure many of you are aware, NABL. which accredits labs, which is a sister board of NABCB and QCI now. And that is also a member of APAC. Now we have actually two more private accreditation bodies. One is called QAI, another is called FDAS in India, apart from NABL, who do lab accreditation. So there are three now. And then the accreditation body is evaluated as per 17,011. The accreditation bodies evaluate certification bodies or inspection bodies or laboratories as per these standards. On the right side, you can see ISO 1720 for inspection, 1721 for management system certification like ISO 9001, 1724, which we will use, 1725 for labs, 17065 for product certification like say ISM mark or egg mark that you see, the certification of the product. And down below is the object of assessment. Object of assessment could be a person. In our case, it's a person, a professional. It could be a product like say electric iron or bottled water where you see ISM mark. Or it could be a process like organic, good agricultural practices, organic. I am sure everybody has heard of organic. It could be a management system like quality management system ISO 9001. Now, the best part of this system is that if the bottommost standard is international, please listen to this carefully. If the bottommost standard, which means the standard to which certification is being carried out, or testing is being carried out, or inspection is being carried out, if that is international, common around the world, and if the certification is done, or testing is done, or inspection is done following this system of IAF or ILAC, which is another body, international body, then the entire thing is international in nature, and that certificate is acceptable internationally. So today, if you get an ISO 9001 certificate in your company, I'm sure many of you are coming from companies who hold ISO 9001 certificate. That certificate, if certified by a certification body, which is accredited by NABCB, which in turn is evaluated by APAC, which in turn is evaluated by IF, that ISO 9001 certificate having the logo of NABCB will be acceptable internationally. Now extend this to product. And that's how the products in Europe are, they're traded within Europe. If the product is to a common international standard, common standard, even if it's not international, common regional standard, for example. Toys are certified to an international standard today for safety. So if the product is certified to an international standard, tested in an accredited lab, certified by an accredited body, that toy can be accepted at all places because standards are common. If your standards are not common, so my own default position has been that we should base all our systems on international standards so that mobility is there. Now applying to GCP, if our standard, basic standard is international, which we have tried, ICA GCP is referenced here, and the process is also international. So there are two parts, basic standard to which you are certified or tested or inspected, and the process of inspection or certification or testing. If both are international, then this would enhance mobility of professionals. Tomorrow, a GCP professional certified in India may be able to show this certificate somewhere and say that I am certified to ICA GCP, so please accept me here. And this is what we aim at. And this is what we should aim at. Our problem as India has been that our pharma standards, our food standards are not totally international. And therefore, we have a problem when it comes to export. But if your standards are common, and if your method of demonstrating that compliance is also international, you will be accepted internationally. So that's what we are aiming at. At some point of time, a GCP professional certified in India should be acceptable around the world. Let's hope we are able to do with your cooperation. More and more people should come in. We should operate this system and demonstrate that our professionals are world class. Next slide, please. I think my part is over. You would like to take over from here, Sucheta, or shall I continue?
Please continue, Jawahari.
Okay, so this I have already explained, that at the apex level, we have a steering committee, which is multi-stakeholder. A lot of stakeholders are present there. And every decision is taken with their approval. The scheme documents were drafted. The other way of involving stakeholders is public consultation. So what Sucheta had explained to you, the scheme documents were placed on the website for open public consultation. Anybody could comment. And those comments were considered in case of the technical documentation, the minimum standard of competence by the technical committee. In case of the certification process by the assessment committee. And then the whole documentation went to the steering committee. Another round of comments. The steering committee members could also comment and say, no, we don't agree. And finally approved by the steering committee. And that's how it was launched last year, I think 15th of August 2022. That's how it was. So these are the documents you will find on the website. The website name is given here on the right-hand side. An overview of the scheme, governing structure. There's a documented governing structure. Everybody can see that. The minimum standard of competence, that is for the professionals, which is what we expect you to comply with. A certification process that will be told to you today, a process which you will go through. How will you apply? How you will be evaluated? How you will be certified? For how long? This certification model of competence, which doesn't bother about your qualification. You know, when we did yoga certification in 2015, we had a huge discussion on should we specify any qualification or not. This system says you don't have to specify any qualification. As long as you define knowledge and skills to perform a job and you are able to evaluate that, that is good enough. You don't have to specify any background, no degree, no diploma, no nothing, not even 12th standard, whatever. And then there is a system for, as I said, there will be third-party bodies who will certify, not CDSA directly. They will be under the supervision of CDSA. So there is a system for provisional approval of personal certification bodies, under which one personal certification body has already been approved, and hopefully it's present today. Then there is the GCP Training Institute, as I said, supporting. That's a support that if you are lacking in your competence in some way, knowledge for GCP, you can go to one of these accredited training institutions and get your knowledge upgradation done, and then go back to one of the personal certification bodies and get yourself certified. There are general documents like rules. You will be able to use the logo of THSTI. You will be able to use, when once personal certification body is accredited, you will be able to use the logo of NABCB on your certificate. Some frequently asked questions and some guidance on how to apply. So this is the scheme. Link is, as I said, link is already given. You can go there, download all these documents. They are free downloads. Read them after this program, after understanding through this program, and apply to the next. Some of the forms are there. Some of them may pertain to you. Some of them probably don't pertain to you. Because they pertain to the training institutions or to the personal certification bodies who have to apply to CDSA and get themselves approved after a due assessment. Next. I think this is the screenshot of the website itself. So you can go to this link and see this. So thank you very much. This is an overview. You will have a detailed presentation on the criteria, which is the minimum standard of competence, by the chair of the technical committee himself, a very eminent expert in his own field. And then you will have a presentation on the process of certification, how certification will be done. And hopefully with that, many of you will be motivated to come forward and apply for certification. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joriji, for giving this overview from your perspective. And really, I think you will be there during the question answer sessions, because there might be a lot of questions from the newbies. And ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be very much there. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very delighted to see other chairpersons also, like Krishnamurti ji, who is the chairperson of the assessment committee. I can also see Somnath Basu ji, who is a former deputy director general, former DDCI deputy director, deputy drugs controller, and now based in AIMTS at Vizag. He was one of the regulatory person who had commented when there was a public, the documents were put for a public comments. Now I'll come to, we are absolutely on time, ladies and gentlemen. It's 11:30. I always say Professor Y.K. Gupta ji doesn't require any introduction. He is Khaitan fan. Sif naam hi kafi hai. So he is the chairperson of the technical committee at GCPPCS. He happens to be the former dean of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, and former head of pharmacology at AIMS, New Delhi. He's also the president of AIMS Jammu and AIMS Bhopal. Please, sir, please do the honor of taking everybody through the minimum standard of competence. Do you want to share the slide, or do you want me or Sonia to share the slide? So
Please
I'll,
unmute yourself, Dr. Gupta.
yeah, can you make him the co-host? Piyush, could you please make Professor
Yes,
Michael?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Sucheta, I would like you to move my PPT.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I'll move your PPT, sir. You can
Yeah.
start with that. I will just start moving.
Yeah, namaskar to everybody, and to all the members, Dr. Jori and Dr. Sucheta, and all the members who have done this initiative. And I was listening to Dr. Jori's. I think this is his initiative and Dr. Sucheta's all effort that we could reach this level. The idea of this is to accredit and to make the competent clinical investigators on and all the stakeholders in clinical research, be it the investigator, be it the members of ethics committee, be it the monitor or the regulator, or be it anybody else. And if the GCP scientists or GCP experts will recall, the first certificate which they have to sign before starting any trial is to sign the certificate that this study will be done under GCP. And when we say so, many people say that they are GCP trained. And but this training can be 1 hour attending lecture of 1 hour, or maybe 2 hours, or maybe 1 day or 2 days, but may not be understanding anything which has been taught. Because if this is on VC, maybe you start VC and then you disappear and then you take the certificate. And therefore, it is important that we should identify and we should certify the minimum standard competencies which we should have. And that is what the technical committee and Dr. Jari and Sucheta and everybody has made it, that what should be the minimum standard of competence, MSCs, which we should ensure that the person who is involved in any good clinical practices he's claiming that he is doing in GCP should have. So I'm not going to talk about the what are the basic rules, investigators, regulations, and the stand, but I am just going to talk about what you understand by minimum standard competencies. So broadly, next slide. If I just say, this is my, yeah. What is GCP? GCP is international standards for biomedical research. And when we say biomedical research, it can be clinical trial, clinical research, whether it is an observational study, whether it is a regulatory study, anything. And that is, it involves few steps. Number one, I think, can you do it the way it was just recently shown on the text full slide? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So first is the how is the design of the study, and there are a number of ways the study can be designed. It can be cohort, it can be cross control, it can be placebo control, it can be crossover. So what is the design and why this design is appropriate for this type of research question? This is, we're not going to talk about that, but this is first thing which is fundamentally most important. The second thing is, when you do conduct of a study, in this, broadly, it starts with a protocol which also has the inclusion criteria, which has to have exclusion criteria, the ethics committee consent form. And when you say inclusion criteria, what is the reason why this is the criteria of inclusion? Say you are putting it, usually you put it 18 to 60 years or 65 years. Why we exclude it to begin with the children and the extreme age, unless the investigational product is for that particular segment, the pregnant woman, because this is more teratogenic possibility is not ruled out. So unless a drug is for pregnant women, we do not use pregnant women, we do not include pregnant women in the study, like that. How you are going to perform this study? That means what is the role, responsibility of the investigator and the co-investigator, who can be defined as an investigator, who can be defined as a co-investigator, and who should be called as a co-PI, and who should be called as a coordinator. Can the principal, should the principal or the head of the institution be always be the PI or the coordinator, which happens many institutions, which is unethical sometimes? That is something important. When you say monitoring of the trial, that is the third or fourth very important step. Each step, even if it is being done by the head of the organization or head of the institution or most reputed PI, most experienced PI, the trial has to be, or study has to be very, very closely monitored. And therefore, there are also role of monitor, which is usually appointed by the sponsor. And this monitor is not the part of the clinical trial team. He is not the clinical trial investigator, but he is the member of the broader team because he monitors whether the protocol is being followed in letter and spirit or not. And if there are any deviation, which inadvertently or intentionally are being noted, then he immediately reports to the sponsor, and also he always safeguard the that the trial is being done on absolutely as defined in protocol. Audit, internal audit, that means again a frequent checks that yes, that this is being done as per the record, and what the basic fundamental of audit is, what is being done is recorded correctly, and what is being recorded is being done. And this is the basically the audit, and what is being recorded is a represented correctly, and what is represented is then uh, analyzed correctly and reported. So that is basically all broader area is the audit, and that is also recording and reporting of the clinical trial. And we also use what are the statistical method to be applied in that. So this is basically broader thing which is to be decided before. Drug Technically Advisory Board, DTAB, which is commonly called as, which is under the Drugs and Cosmetic Act, has adopted that this is the guidelines GCP, which is called as the GCP guideline, and this was became mandatory for all clinical studies in India. And those who remember, there were series of parliament questions about 15 years back, and then it was made mandatory that all the clinical trials must have the GCP. And this was also adopted by Indian International Standard Organization, and that is called as a ISO 14155-2022. This is clinical investigations of medical devices for human subjects and good clinical practice. Lack of standards as to what a professionals who is to be trained, certified need to follow. And that is what is, it was noted that there is basically there was a literally no standardization of the competencies, and that's why this GCP CCP has been professional competence course was designed. The idea is that we must standardize and then we must ensure that these are the minimum competencies which one must have. Next slide. Now, clinical research work, if you just say today, the clinical trials or clinical research in India has gone many, many fold. And particularly after COVID-19, the number of clinical trials and number of clinical research have multiplied, I think, logarithmically, if I say so. There was in between, there was a much dampening effect on clinical research. But now we need to have a much larger workforce, competent workforce who can clinical trial. Not only that we need to have a competent workforce, it is important that these group of clinical trialists or the human resource, different stakeholders, need to be continuously upgrade their competence, their skill, their knowledge, and because the regulations change, the environment changes, the ethics sometimes also, the principle remains the same, but the situational importance or the things become different. And therefore, competence of clinical research, which if I say what are the competence, it is broadly you can put them into three domains. One is the knowledge, it changes fast. The knowledge of diabetes or anti-diabetic model or the outcome variables of anti-diabetics or anti-cancer or the outcome variables in this have changed now. The skill now, as the time passes, technology driven trials are more and more relevant. Flexible trials, adaptable trials, and therefore you must have the knowledge of that and you must know the skill at what time and how these domains are applicable. So it's important that you know, you keep your knowledge updated, you keep your skill updated. AI and machine learning also in clinical trial, the use of different biomarkers in clinical trials, use of genetic knowledge in clinical trial. So, and then their application into clinical trials. Gone are the days when the clinical trial number used to be in multiples of hundreds or maybe thousands. Now, if you have a genetically similar human resource, then perhaps you can ask your statistician that variability is this much less and therefore number of subjects may be less, and then he will calculate accordingly with your inputs to them as a statistician. Since competencies are observable, see, you can see when you say competency, if it is or can be observed, then it can be quantified also, it can be measured also to assess that they are imbibed. And that's why the post training assessment is important. Then yes, I'm able to got 90% of marks, around 90% or 70% of the training which has been given to me. I have imbibed that, and the that may be the mechanism by which the certification can be given. As Dr. Johari has mentioned very clearly, that once you have these type of courses which are standardized, specified, and well described, then you have a certification, and then perhaps this certification will be valid globally, and then people should be regarded, respected like that. No generally agreed upon set of core competence upon which educational program or training requirements of either entry level professionals. So that is, it can be, sometimes people say whether it should be MD or MBBS or BDS, who can be the entry level professional for that, or continuing professional. So we are still struggling that who should be, but to me, any person who is competence through training, through knowledge, through updation, whether he has a biological sciences, he has a biotech, he has a BDS, he has a MDS, or he has any biological sciences, if he can develop that, perhaps he can also be a clinical trial component. So I'm not saying the principal investigator, but as a monitor, as anything like that. And that's why DHSTI is CDSA is running a course of MSc clinical research. That means these people are equally important component of the clinical trial. And if they do these type of certification course, I think they would be an asset. Next. Now, if I just say the what are the GCP professional certification scheme? GCP, good clinical practice. PCS means professional minimum code of the competence required. Now, this is designed to evaluate and certify self-directed, practice-based, and rather than supervised training. This is not the training which we provide, that in-house training or maybe in hospital or some setup like that. It's self-directed. We give the course material, we tell you, we teach you, we have a panel discussion, we have a discussion, we have a case studies, and then it is self-directed. And research too, the purpose of this is to promote, maintain, and develop the competencies, professionalism, knowledge, skill, attributes to individual profession. Now, once you have that sort of an attitude that yes, you have to be keep yourself updated with the regulatory system, updated with the ethical values, updated how it happened, that's what we want to encourage applicants to plan. And that's why sometimes we say you develop a protocol for anti-diabetic trial, you develop a protocol for comparison of paracetamol 600 versus 650, which is an academic research. We also look for observational study, and we can say that you develop a protocol or you do a dummy study for evaluation of knowledge, application, and aptitude and practices, KAP, CAP assessment of any practice in India, or we will want to say that the applicability. Suppose I want to say that I have developed a mosquito net, which is with insecticide impregnated, but I want to see whether how people will use it, how people will like it, and what are the factors which will be important to consider when this will go into the national program. Now, these type of thinking process, ability to develop a plan and record is the purpose of this training course. So schemes owners develop minimum standard competencies of the good clinical practices, and that is what is the important thing that you must train, or we try to put it. Now, what are the different, if I say, what are the core competencies domain? These are just for the sake of understanding, we have put them into 6 core competencies. It may be somebody can put them into 8, somebody can put into more. But the core competency is number 1, a protocol. When you say protocol, means a roadmap of the study, how you develop it. And once you develop a protocol, your rest of the job of the clinical trial becomes easy. And if you do not adopt a protocol, and this, what is protocol? If I just say, protocol is that if I want to develop, if I want to go from Delhi to Muradabad, if I want to go to from X place to other place, I know that first I have to buy a ticket, then I have to board on a car, a bus, a train, whatever is most suitable, what is the most suitable vehicle. It may not be bullock cart, may not be suitable for going to Lucknow from Delhi, or a car may not be suitable from going to from Delhi to London. The suitable mode of transportation means suitable method, material method, instrumentation, and then reaching there and doing investigation, inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, and what are the inputs, what are the, so everything is protocol. How many times blood pressure will be recorded, what are the investigation will be done, and if anything is to be changed in between, that is called as a protocol deviation, which may be right or which may be wrong. But if there is a protocol deviation, it must be discussed why this protocol deviation, and what was earlier, what is the new. Now you wanted to do 6-time blood pressure recording. Now you think that the 6-time blood pressure recording is not really required. Only 2 times or 4 times will be sufficient without compromising any scientific rigor. Then that is a protocol deviation. And once protocol deviation is approved by the competent authority, in most of the cases, this is the investigator or sponsor, and then it is considered as a protocol deviation accepted. Otherwise, it will be called as a protocol violation. So that is important phenomena which the investigator should know. investigational product development and regulation is a very important thing that each competencies, stakeholder should have this competency. What is investigational product? Investigational product is the one which is being investigated upon, or which is compared to with, or it is a placebo. So there can be three type of investigational product. A placebo can be investigational product. A comparator can be investigational product. An active ingredient can be the investigation on which to be evaluated is the investigational product. It has to be ensured that these investigational products are made under GMP, good manufacturing practices. You should know what are the rules and regulations for investigational product. You have to have the complete chemistry, complete background, means a preclinical study, the safety profile, if this is already established. Even though this is written in the book, but you must have right ready reckoner of what is the side effect profile. The inventory control. So this is the investigational product and the regulations regarding the investigational products. The important thing is describe the investigational product encompasses knowledge on how drug devices in biologics are developed and regulated. Describe role and responsibilities of various institutions and clinical participants in IP development process. Some institution will do clinical trial, preclinical rat, rabbit, or maybe some may be doing in vitro studies, some may be doing carcinogenicity. So these are the important parameters where they have been done, and also how to interpret them, because your clinical trial protocol will be based on the risk you have identified during the preclinical stage. I will just give you one simple example that during preclinical stage of rofecoxib, which was the drug which was banned, which was the drug which was the most highly prescribed, going to Guinness Book, has been banned later, because in preclinical study it was missed that this has intentionally missed that it caused QT prolongation, and therefore in clinical trial this was not so much emphasized, and the result was the people went to court, the drug was banned, the highest ever compensation was paid by the company, and the company went from most profit making company to loss almost at the sale verge. So that is important thing. Explain IP development process. That's what are the stages, and this is also sometimes called as a risk based protocol development. Risk, you identify critical risk. So that is it. Summarize current regulatory requirements. That is all. What is the PSUR? What is the 4 years PSUR? What is the compensation regulation? And what is the timeline? And I just summarize the regulatory requirements in as if you go to US, if you go to London, and if you drive in India, you must know the rules and regulations of the driving on the road of that regulatory country, that regulation. And therefore, if you must know the regulations of that country, should know ICH GCP, because it is international study. If it is only in Indian industry, you must first know the Indian regulations, and that is because that has changed. I chaired the committee which is called now as NDCT 19, New Drug and Clinical Trial Regulation 19. So we must be aware of that. Next. Now, ethical consideration for a patient safety. The most important pillar, or one of the two pillars of GCP, is the ethics committee. And the ethics committee fundamental thing says that do no harm. It's not important to do good, but it is important to do good, but it's more important to ensure that this does not give any harm. And it encompasses research participants for their rights, safety, and well-being. Now, when you say right, it will say that it should have voluntariness. And voluntariness, number one, and that means it should patient or subject or the participant should have the authority without giving any reason. He should be allowed to quit or continue. Number two, the informed consent. That means he must be explained in detail each and every risk involved into this and the possible benefit. When you say risk, it can be apparent risk or it can be possible risk. And many times we say that why this is important to inform, even when the patient is likely to die in this as a process or as a consequence, maybe 1 in 1 lakh, but we must inform. Regulation, it is important because if the person dies, then and if it is established that this death is because of the clinical trial or any intervention done, investigation done because of the clinical trial, and it is established that this is a causally related, that is called a causality assessment, then it has to be given compensation. And this compensation can vary in India from thousands to maybe 73 lakh rupees. And this is again, regulatory requirement is important to know because this can be in anywhere in the world. This is given through code, but in India, this is called as a no fault compensation, and this is given by the uh, at the same time. It does not go into the code. And discuss historical event that led to development of ethical guidelines. So we should also the other competency that people should, the stakeholder must know that why this ethics role has come. Helsinki Declaration, the the so many declaration guidelines have come up. There was a time when Nazis have done experiment on the prisoners, and they wanted to see that for how long the people who are not getting the food or water can survive, and then any intervention that can it be prolonged. That type of experiment is not permitted, and that led to the ethics. Similarly, it was also seen that when there was uh, penicillin developed and penicillin was effectively treating syphilis, patient were denied, a group was denied a treatment and the other patient was given treatment, and seen the comparison group. So now if the treatment is available, denying an available treatment which is effective is a crime. So that is what the ethics the uh, have started in India, and that is important thing because even today many trials are done where the ethics committee is given a challenge to give a guidance, and that is if you are developing an anti-diabetic drug, you are keeping a group on the placebo and keeping the patient on diabetes with 200 or 230 40 milligram percent blood sugar on placebo. On the other, we will giving the drug. So just 2 days back, we had this type of protocol. Even today, it is not acceptable because you cannot deny a clinically valid available treatment. So explain sample size of suitable inclusion. When we say sample size, you must have the correct sample size, not the sample size which is too large, because this will be unnecessarily exploitation of the subjects, unnecessarily delaying these, and you should not have the lesser number because then the clinical outcome may not be reliable and the entire study will be waste. So there has to be a debate, a well thought of sample size calculation, which will depend on the power of a study and the background information available to that. And if it is not available, then the study can be called only as a potential study or pilot study. Inclusion exclusion criteria are very important because they should basically correct representation of the efficacy of the drug. Important ramification of this when we use inclusion exclusion criteria in phase 3 or phase 2 trial, when the subject is given in the field where there is no inclusion exclusion criteria, there may be adverse event which or maybe difference of the effect. And that's why phase 4 studies are often mandatory or often required or many times voluntary also. And we must also know what is the vulnerable population, particularly like you have a sexual transmitted disease, you have a, a children or prisoners or school children. These are the vulnerable population because you can influence them and how to handle these, how to safeguard their interests, and that you might be knowing the fiasco which happened with the Indian Council of Medical Research sponsored trial on HPV vaccine, where the tribal population were given ethical approval just by not consenting with them, but their the principles and things like that. Reimbursement for participation, if the participant is coming by a taxi and costs 500 rupees, he must be paid back that. But at the same time, if you are putting this compensation from US, and because this is a international trial, for coming from Nazargarh to Delhi, if you are giving 5,000 or 10,000 rupees as a reimbursement, then this will be exploitation. So the compensation paid for as a reimbursement should not be in exploitation, but it should not be the inducement also. Now, the ethical consideration, we have talked significant about this, and so now the 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 study operation, the clinical study operation, that means describe, one must very clearly know what is the role and responsibilities of the investigator, PI, co-investigator, like that. Investigators many times do not know what is their role, and they go abroad for 5 to 6 months without assigning who is the next person. And next person doesn't know that what is his authority and what is his responsibility. And it is very important because they have a legal complication. Considering this, at one time, the clinical investigators, because they were not aware, they are taking 6 to 10 or maybe 15 trials at a time. It was proposed that they will only have later it was relaxed, and now it is responsibility of the ethics committee to ensure that the person who is the PI has an adequate supervision of that. SAE is a very important part of the clinical trial. If there is a SAE, then it has to be serious adverse effect event. One must know what is serious adverse event. I am saying because we have come across many people who have not even clarity on SAE. And that is one. And then what is the importance of timely reporting? And what is the importance of doing causality assessment? Because if you have done causality related, then they will require compensation. If it is not causality related, they may not. So this is something very important. And describe the role, process of monitoring, describe the role, purpose of audit, and understand post-marketing activities. So the ethics committee and the clinical operations, this is the competency which we must have. You cannot say that I am an investigator, so I do not know the role and responsibility of the ethics committee. It is the responsibility of the investigator to get the ethics committee approval from an ethics committee which is competent, which is registered, and which has the adequate number. Otherwise, your study will go into problem because this may not be accepted. Next. The study and the site management, again, I would say that the competency of the stakeholder should be that he must know that for this study, this site is competent. If there is any serious adverse event happens, then this study has the immediate management system. It's not that what happened in HPV vaccine, the patient developed severe coma, and then it went to a hospital which was designated as the designated hospital, and there was no bed available. So that is a bad site. So site assessment or site is also responsibility. So what we have to see is not that the orthopedics department or hospital will have a cardiology site, and the cardiology department will have a research or clinical trial on orthopedics. So this is the important thing broadly, the site management, and therefore site identification, site management, site assessment, is again a big domain. Next. Next. Data management and informatics in Indian context. This is a much required discipline. We are not very much trained, or or our psychology assessment is not that each data is so critical. The safety of data, keeping data, archiving data, assessing data, and then how long this data should be archived, so that data locking system, unless we have this skills, the data management, why many institutions who lack on this data management system, they are not selected as a good clinical site by international agencies, because you do not know how to capture data, how to identify the missed data, and how to see the interpretation of missing data. So this is something which is very, very important, and therefore this is again a considered to be a core competency domain. Next. So finally, I would say the core competence domain of GCP is the role domain biostatics projects. So these are the broader is given, and the so I will not go into the detailed level of competencies required to perform the stated job. Basic level can be deemed as the entry level requirement by for functioning of any job role, and so this is, you have to see that broadly, but this is, I would say, we will circulate this, and I would still say these were put on the website for long time, but even today, if any suggestion, any idea where you think that this is a weaker domain and must be strengthened, we will be happy to modify it. Next. So uh, evaluation of GCP professionals. So this is what is proposed. Sub competencies. These are the competencies, and then can be sub competency interpretation of the some competencies, competency domain, their breakdown, because once you have a sub competency and then again a smaller breakdown, and then assessment of these sub competencies will be easier and will be better. And these are the methods which have been developed. Next slide. So I think this may not be required, because this is the basic level, and then you may have to have, if you are interested in, you can go to the higher level of competencies. Next. So these are the reference documents. These are the Indian GCP guidelines, ICH GCP guidelines, new drugs clinical trial rules, national ethical guidelines, assessment of competency. So these are basically the reference documents which I think you may have to refer again and again and master them. So that's, I think that's it. Maybe. So in summary, I would say that today the time has come that the so-called clinical trial stakeholders must be competent. They must be competent in their knowledge, in their skill, and their performance. And this has to be assessed by somebody else. And then this is the body which will assess it. And once this is assessed and you say, yes, this will be certified by this body, then, as Mr. Johari has very rightly said, then you would be regarded a competent clinical trial professional throughout the globe. You will be respected. We are also looking for the organization, institutions which understand this philosophy, practices this philosophy, and can act as a professionally competent training provider. And that they are competent training provider will be assessed by this body which Mr. Jory has very rightly mentioned. We are looking for that. And as on date, there are just two, or maybe Sucheta may say if there are more in application. So time is is ripe that we standardize our training process, we identify our core competence, and we ensure that these competences are imbibed in all stakeholders, at least in Indian uh, professionals who are involved in the clinical trial. So I again congratulate all the members of the steering committee, Dr. Jory's leadership, and uh, Dr. Sucheta's hard work, and the entire team of Vandana and and so many people in this. So thank you very much. I got this opportunity to interact with you.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been a pleasure hearing you. I know that you had a very tight schedule and you still took time not only for the technical committee meetings over the years and also worked on the minimum standard of competence. As you rightly mentioned, quality is always on a continual improvement mode. So if there are any comments, we'll be very happy to take those comments, and we will request sir in the capacity of chairperson technical committee to review that for minimum standard of competence. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time, and namaskar once again. We are absolutely on time, ladies and gentlemen. And if I can see a lot of questions coming in, wherever people see sir, I think they ask a lot of questions. Sir, will you have time to wait till 1:30 to address those
I will
questions?
join back after half an hour. Will that be okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you can join at 1, at maybe 12.
I will join back. I will join back.
Thank you so much, sir. By the
Thank
time,
you.
we also try to wind up with the next session. Thank you once again, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite Vani Bhabri Arora, who is a former Deputy Director at National Accreditation Board for certification bodies at Quality Council of India. She is an international conformity assessment and standards expert. She will take us through the certification process for GCP professionals, which is very important. Vani, I'm going to learn and hear from you a lot. And over to you now, Vani. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform. And I will like to say one thing, because the platform is already set. As Jory sir has already explained that whole hierarchy, how it works, and how we reach to a level where we have the international acceptance of the scheme, of the professionals which are coming out of this scheme, and we can represent in the international platform. And as you have said that Dr. Gupta sir, he has also explained the technical part. I'm going to explain the part which is required, that what are the requirements for the certification process and how you can get certified, what you have to do, and what as a CB needs to implement to make this, to ensure that whoever is certified under this process meets those requirements and we have an international acceptance. Thank you. I will share my slide. I will control myself. I think I have to first change it into the presentation mode.
Vani, are you able to share, or should I?
Actually, I'm trying to change it into presentation mode, but it's not getting changed once I start
Yeah,
sharing it.
your presentation is visible now.
Okay,
So it
fine.
is visible. Okay. You
Okay,
can start.
fine.
You can start. Okay.
Can you make it in the presentation mode, or is it not allowing you to do that?
It's not allowing me. That's what I was trying to say, that it's not allowing me to change it into presentation mode. Oh, it got changed, I think. Oh, great. Okay. Is it in the presentation mode or how it is?
Yes.
Because it's
Yes,
getting
perfect.
changed
Please
with
go.
me. Okay, fine. So as I've already said that I'm going to explain about the complete the certification process under the Good Clinical Practice Professional Certification Scheme, and the requirement that has to be followed to obtain the certification under this scheme. The complete certification process which is required here, as explained by Mr. Jowhary, there is that we have a process which starts with the requirement of application. Is my slides moving? I can't see them moving.
No, it is not moving. But do you want
Moving.
Sonia to share the
I
slides
think,
and you can
yeah,
talk?
yeah, it
That
will
might
be
be
better. Yeah, it
Sonia,
will
will
be
you do
better.
the
Just
will you
yeah,
do
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Or do you want me to do it, Sonia, by any chance?
Ma'am, I'm just trying. Just give me a minute. Give me.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry because of this
Vani should
technical
stop
issue.
sharing. Vani, have you stopped sharing?
That
Just
is
a
why
second.
I cannot. Just a
Okay.
minute.
Yeah, now. Yes.
When you can start speaking because the
Okay.
slides will come. I think you are
Okay.
not in need of any slides. You can speak.
Okay, fine.
Is it visible to all now? Is it visible?
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, then fine.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, let me start that. And the
Now it's there.
first,
Now it's
yeah.
there.
So Dr. Sonia, can you move to the first slide, please? Next to this. Can you move? Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, let me start it, and then we will have. So it's the first few slides it's about the certification process. So generally, like many other certification process, which you may be aware or which you may not be aware, requires a process which includes that the person who wants to get certified under these schemes need to apply on a prescribed application format. Why I'm saying the word the prescribed application format? Because certain information is required which needs to be reviewed by the certification body under this scheme to ensure that the application can be accepted or application can be rejected depending on the requirement of the scheme. So that is detailed in this certification process. So that's what they are saying, that you have to apply. You can't apply on a plain paper with that I want to apply for this scheme. No, you have to apply to the personal certification body which are approved under this scheme. You can only apply to the personal certification body which are approved under the scheme in the prescribed application format. Then they are also, since the requirement is both for the CBs, PRCBs, and the personal who wants to apply, now they are saying that the personal certification bodies, they have to, that is a mandatory requirement again here, that they have to respond to all the requirements, and they have to uh, review the application from all the prospective applicants and tell them what if they want to understand the certification process, the scheme, fees, the documents requirement, and any other applicants obligation and rights, their duties, and all these queries has to be responded within the 7 days of the receipt of the query. So that is one. So if as an applicant you don't understand something, if an prospective applicant, you want to know what is the requirement, what are my obligations, you can write to the PRCB which is approved, and then PRCB has to respond you within the 7 days. They are next saying that as an applicant GCP professional, as a person, if you want to apply as a GCP professional, you have to declare whether are under the scheme that status of the application, scope, and the period of the certification, all these things needs to be declared. The applicant GCP professional shall, along with the application, declare any pending judicial proceedings relating to his conduct. They are talking about, because they need to review the application and has to accept or reject the application. So they want to know that you have to declare as an applicant that if you have any pending judicial proceedings relating to your conduct and or on any pending proceedings by any regulatory body concerning to GCP related activities, an application from such an applicant shall not be entertained. So they have very clearly stated that if you have to declare if you have any open judiciary proceedings, and if you have open regulatory proceedings related to GCP application, then your application will not be entertained. But that is the second step, not be entertained. But first you have to declare that you don't have any open proceedings to that. All application for certification shall be reviewed for the completeness. As a PRCB, any PRCB where you are applying, they have to see that all the requirements, whatever the data they have requested you in the application, that is adequate. And if there is something which is missing in the application, that should be informed back to the GCP professional and within the 7 days. Now, we need to maintain, as a PRCB, they need to maintain the application. They also need to maintain the record of application review. See, it's very important. We miss the step of maintaining the record of application review. This is to all the prospective PRCB who want to apply as a PRCB under this scheme. Application is one part. Many a times, what you understand, your applicant may not understand that language. They may not understand the importance of one requirement which is there in the application. But once you get your application, you need to ensure it is complete. If some information is missing, please get that information filled by a telephone call, by a mail, anything. And then you have to review, you have to ensure that the candidate doesn't have any judiciary open proceedings or any other issues, and you can accept that application. So review process shall be there, and the record that you have reviewed shall be maintained. So that is another requirement. All applications found complete shall be registered within 7 days of receipt of application. So once a PRCB has received an application within 7 days, they have to register that application in order of the receipt with a unique identification number, knowledge and records maintained. What they are saying that once you register the application, you have to give them a UI number, which is unique identification number to all your applicants. Application from the applicants found to be violating the terms and conditions of the scheme while their application is being processed shall not be processed any further and rejected after due notice of 15 days. So one thing is that you get a declaration beforehand, but if the applicant is still under the application mode and you found that they are violating any of the terms and conditions which are there in the application, then you can reject the application by giving them a due notice of 15 days. Application from applicants who have misused the earlier certification. If there are applicants who have misused the earlier certification or whose earlier certification was cancelled, rejected, or whose earlier application was rejected because of violation of terms and conditions, shall not be registered. So the cooling period they are saying is 1 year. So if your previous certificate is cancelled or previous application is rejected, then the cool-off period in this scheme is 1 year. Then you can apply only after 1 year again under this scheme to the approved PRCB. So CBs have to ensure that if they are receiving an application for an applicant whose application was rejected earlier, the cooling period should be 1 year. The request of certification from ex-applicant shall be processed like a fresh applicant, even if there is a break in the application, somebody was certified, then they didn't came up and the it was closed, then the new, even if they are ex-applicant, it should be considered as a fresh application. Now they have very clearly certified that PRCB shall reject or close the application under the following condition. 1, if deficiencies observed in the applications are not completed within 1 month. If as a PRCB, I'm requesting you, please give me this further information. the application is not complete and you are not responding to me within 1 month, then your application will be closed. If applicant does not take the evaluation within 3 months of registration of application, once your application is registered and I have planned evaluation for you and you are not going to take the evaluation within 3 months, then also your application can be rejected. Misuse of certification mark, maybe if you are not already certified, you are to start claiming, then your application can be rejected. Any evidence of malpractice, voluntary withdrawal or application. The last one is, as an applicant, you can also withdraw your application that, okay, I don't want to get certified under this scheme. With this PRCB, I want to withdraw my application. So these could be the few situations where application can be closed. In the event of closure or rejection of application, the PRCB may act as per its policy, that how they are going to communicate, how they will be updating their website, all these things, that will be as per the PRCB policies. So this is a complete overview that how you are going to have how you are going to the application. I think if I'm not wrong, we have reached to recertification. I'm still in the application mode. Dr. Sonia, can you drive us to the first slide? Yeah, this process, yeah. So this is the process of application. And then once we have that application is reviewed and accepted, then there is a competence evaluation process. We have gone into already detail what the criteria, the requirements. The criteria for evaluation will be the requirements which are listed under the minimum standard of competences in the specific domain for which you have undertakes the evaluation. The evaluation to be either online or face-to-face. So now they are giving you the option of having online or face-to-face evaluation. Both can be done. And the criteria for evaluation is the minimum standard of competencies, which is already explained to you. The evaluation method will be that there will be standardized MCQs for testing the knowledge and case study based MCQs to test the skill in the 6 domains of the competence for the basic level. That is what they are saying. That's what they explain in the scheme. The scheme is also saying that there will be no negative marking for the basic level evaluation. The overall pass percentage under this scheme is 70%. The evaluation methods, it will be based on 17024. 17024 ISO 17024 is a standard which is for the personal certification bodies. So they need to ensure that the evaluation method, how to design the question paper, how to design the MCQs, what controls they are going to have if it's going to be online, what is the competency of invigilator, what is the competency of evaluated. Everything methods will be based on 17024. Coming to the next, they are saying that evaluation team will always consist of 2 evaluators. So minimum 2 evaluators will be there who is going to evaluate you. The evaluator competence is also defined. This is not the competence required by the GCP professional. This is the competence of the evaluator who is going to evaluate you. They're saying the evaluator, so this is applicable to PRCB. The evaluator must be postgraduate degree in medical science or nursing, pharmaceuticals, biological science, biostats, clinical data management. He or she should have the 5 years of work experience in clinical research after receiving the postgraduate degree. He or she shall be GCP trained. Now the last one is, if there is a team, there is not an individual, there is a team, then the team of personal evaluators, trainers, or question paper setters, they need to have the overall collective competence in all the 6 domains. Next slide, please. The evaluators shall record their result on the structured evaluation sheet for each candidate. Means the record, whatever is the result, the positive, negative, marking, whatever is done, there should be a structured evaluation sheet which is uniform for all your evaluation process, and all results should be recording in the structure in this evaluation sheet. Now, taking you through the evaluation process of the candidates shall be conducted with the 3 months of registration, as already mentioned. The PRCB shall schedule the evaluation as and when the number of optimum candidates are there. Means it's not feasible that if I get the 2 applications and I start having my exams or scheduling my exams, it's not feasible. So when they have the minimum number of candidates, they can plan their exam. The PRCB at its discretion may evaluate with less number of candidates. The PRCB shall ensure that certification process is completed within 15 days from the date of actual evaluations. Means the certification process means that the evaluation, marking, the decision and complete certification process shall be completed within the 15 days. The PRCB shall inform all the applicants the result, whether they are they have to inform their client. PRCB should also maintain publicly available information on their website, the dates of evaluation and names of the candidates. So this requirement should be in the public domain. The names of the candidate shall be communicated well in advance so that the people who are the evaluators, they should know who are appearing in the exam. So if as an evaluator, if I have conflict of interest with someone, I can declare that I have a conflict of interest with one of the candidates. And then PRCB should see that how they are going to conduct the evaluation of that candidates. Then they have to inform the candidates also the time of examination, names of the team of evaluator, and they have to tell that who are the evaluators so that candidate can also tell that if they have any conflict of interest. So it has to be declared by both of the things, not exactly declared by the candidates, but if you know the evaluators, you can also tell that whether you have a conflict of interest as a candidate or not. PRCB shall provide them with the option of another examination or reimburse the application fee in case they decide that as a candidate, you decide that I have a conflict of interest with an evaluator and I will come back for other exam, or I don't want to go for evaluation with your PRCB, then PRCB has to decide that on the application fees. The names of the candidate shall be communicated well in advance to the examination center where examination is planned. There also, because there will be invigilator, there also they want to ensure that there is no conflict of interest with the invigilator who will be present in the examination hall. PRCB shall inform the candidates the name of the evaluation center, where the evaluation is being planned, again to identify. So all these things are done to ensure that the evaluation is conflict of interest free. See, that's what we were talking about, that the whole certification process, to give that a confidence, to give it as an international acceptability, we need to ensure that who is conducting, who is doing this evaluation, the conformity assessment body, here we are calling PRCB, is competent, that we ensure to the competence of the evaluation is free of any conflict of interest, so that the final user of that certificate have the confidence in the certificate which is issued under the scheme. Then the decision of evaluators shall be communicated to the client, and everything will be updated on the scheme owner, which is here the body, on their website. The PRCB shall ensure that evaluation and certification process is such that they are fair, they are valid and reliable across the test centers, across time zones and evaluators. So this is the complete evaluation process, where we have discussed that it will be an examination centers if it's the physical face-to-face test, and where all what all steps we have to take to minimize the conflict of interest. Then after the evaluation is completed, we are going to have a decision on the certificate. The PRCB shall decide on certification by the decision shall be taken by the competent person who were not involved in the evaluation. Based on the information, whatever the evaluators have collected. These information is that the evaluation result of the candidate is not below the minimum score, availability of the national documentation and proof or means of evaluation, any other requirement which is required for the decision. They are also saying that there is no conditional grant of certification by the PRCB. The decision to certify the person shall be taken by independent person. Independent here means the people who have done the evaluation should not do the decision and has not even undergone given any training to the candidate. So again, the decision maker also needs to be independent. When the candidates fail to meet the acceptance criteria for evaluation, the PRCB shall inform that the candidate may take another evaluation with the same or other PRCB, but would have to declare the previous performance while reapplying. So that is another condition is there. Then they are talking about that if a certified GCP professional, they relocate to a different place, like I'm practicing in Delhi, then I start practices in Mumbai, then he or she shall be required to inform to PRCB to change the location, who in turn shall inform the certified GCP professional of the procedure to be followed to and how the certificate validity will be maintained. The next point is that effective date of the certification as a professional, the effective date from when you are a certified professional in this scheme starts from the date when the decision is taken, not from the evaluation date. Evaluation may have been conducted on 7/11/2023, but if decision is taken on 12/11/2023, so your certificate effective date of certification will start from 12/11/2023, not 7/11/2023. And the validity of certificate is 5 years. So validity will be 5 years from 12/11/2023. The applicants for GCP professionals have a code of conduct for being certified GCP professional. And then they are saying if any transition takes place in the scheme requirement, the MSCs for GCPs, then the scheme owners have to align the approved PRCBs of the transition policies, and what will be whether they need to reevaluate the candidates, or how they will update, how they will ensure that candidate still meets the competence requirement under this scheme. So this is the complete certification process, and this is the basic, the whole crux of GCP professionals there. You are if you're applying as a candidate, please go through it. You will understand your rights. You will understand what are your rights, what are your obligation, under what condition your certificate can be application can be rejected, who should be the evaluator, how you can handle the conflict of interest situation. Please go through it and you will understand that. Then the second thing is under this complete process is the certificate. What is the certificate requirement? So whatever certificate you are getting, or whatever certificate a PRCB is going to issue, that certificate needs to have the name of the certified person, the name. Generally nowadays, the name which is there on the Aadhaar card is used, or any legal document is used. That name is should be mentioned on the certificate. Unique ID number, which I have said that at the time of registration of application, you have to give one unique ID number, that should be there. The name of the certification body, the PRCB, which is issuing the certificate. The reference of the certification scheme, standard, and any relevant documents, including the issue date, because the standards can change. So whatever is the issue date, so that should be there. The scope of certification, if applicable, validity, conditions and limitations, the effective date of certificate and date of expiry. So all these things should be mentioned on the certificate. The certification format has to be approved by the scheme owner. The effective date of the certification on the certificate document shall not be before the date of certification, which is the decision or recertification date. The formal certification documentation shall include the signature of the individual of the PRCB and assigned such responsibility. So, the certificate document should also be signed by the person who is responsible to sign the certification document. Next slide, please. Now, this is the complete first certification. You have got certified, you have got your certificate. Now, what about the surveillance? Means, because we said that this is a 5-year cycle, how we as a PRCB, as a scheme owner, we ensure that you are continuing to maintain the competence. So that's why we are doing the surveillance. Surveillance to be conducted in the 3rd year of certification. So if you are certified in 2023, then in the 3rd year, you are going to get certified. For the certified GCP professionals who has been working, if you are working, after being certified, for them, there will be no surveillance assessment on the production of evidence that I am working as a GCP professional. If you provide an evidence that you are working somewhere as a certified GCP professional and working in that domain, then no further assessment will be required. For those who are unable to provide the evidence of working in the field of GCP and wish to continue their certified status, they have to undergo a retest as surveillance. So if I am working as a GCP professional and I'm able to demonstrate it, I don't need a retest. But if I'm not working or I'm not able to demonstrate that I'm working, then I have to undergo the retest. Next slide, please. As I have mentioned earlier, that recertification will be after 5 years. And the recertification will be done on the basis of surveillance evaluation, corrective actions, feedback, any complaint, suspension. This is the whole criteria for doing your recertification, which will be after 5 years. Next slide, please. The recertification shall be effected from the date of expiry of the previous certificate. So whatever is the date of expiry of the previous certificate, your recertification will be effected from then. And the intervening period shall be treated as a period of suspension, if there is any suspension. In case the certified GCP professional does not complete satisfactory actions within the 3 months, a show cause notice of 15 days shall be served with a chance to respond to the personal hearing. I think we have moved 2 slides. This is about... Okay, fine. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So this is all about the recertification process. Next, please. Next slide. Now, what they are saying is that if you are initially certified for the basic level, you can also change the level of certification. It's not that if you're certified for the basic, then for the 5 years, you are going to maintain that basic level. You can change to the high level of certification if prescribed on the application by the GCP professional. After that PRCB ascertain that you have now the required competence, which is prescribed under the MSc, and they can even change your level to a higher level. And once you are changed to the higher level, the candidate will be issued a fresh certificate as in initial certification, and instead of the current certificate after taking back the lower level of certificate. But they are trying to say your 5-year cycle doesn't change in between. Next slide, please. This is about the suspension of the certificate. These are the conditions that when your certificate can be suspended. They are saying that a certificate can be suspended with due notice of 15 days. PRCB can send you a notice, will give you 15 days time to chance to respond. And if the response is not satisfactory, they can suspend the certificate. The surveillance audit shows, and these are the reasons for suspension. If you are not, surveillance audit doesn't show the satisfactory performance, there's a complaint, you have not paid the fees, or any violation in terms and conditions. And on receipt of the instruction from suspension of certificate, the certified GCP professional shall with immediate effect remove the reference of certificate in all its communication. So if you are communicated that you are certified GCP professional in your website or in your visiting card or anything, and once you are suspended, you have to remove this communication. Next slide, please. The certified, once the show cause notice has been sent to you and you have been given a 15 days time, and as a certified GCP, you shall be advised to undertake a root cause analysis and identify and initiate necessary corrective action for resolving if there is any complaint or feedback issues, or if your performance is not satisfactory, then you have to do the root cause and take the necessary action. And your suspension should not stay for more than 6 months. If it exceeds 6 months, then the certificate has to be cancelled. Next slide. So you can be under suspension for 6 months, which will be reflected on your certificate. If it within 6 months you resolve the issue, your certificate will be reinstated. But if within 6 months you are not able to resolve the issue, the certificate will be cancelled. And there are other reasons when the certificate can be cancelled. That certified GCP professional contravenes the terms of and conditions of certification and provision of these schemes, like claiming or displaying the scope of certification other than what is granted. You are granted the basic level and you are saying that you are certified to a higher level, or you are doing any fraudulent behavior, your certificate can be cancelled. The corrective action is not it's not accepted, or any administrative reason like payment of fees and all those things. So your certificate will be cancelled, and if certified professional, you are no longer a certified professionals. Next slide, please. In the event if your certificate is cancelled, you have to return the certificate to the PRCB, and any suspension and cancellation of the certificate should be on the public domain and should be informed to the scheme owner, and scheme owner also put them in their public domain. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. Thank you for having your patience. And this is one of the most important thing is there, although it looks like it's just a fee. But what the standard is saying, what the scheme is saying, that as a PRCB, you can charge a fees. Nobody is stopping you. Whatever the fees you want to keep, you can charge the fees for doing, but that fee structure should not be discriminatory. I can't say that for Dr. Sujita, I have a fee of 1,000 rupees, but for Vani Hamri Arora, I will have a fees of 5,000 rupees. No. The fee should be, whatever is your fee structure, that should not be discriminatory. The fee structure shall be publicly accessible, and you also have to provide the fee structure on request. The PRCB, if you are going to change the fee structure, the PRCB shall notify and obtain consent to the fee structure from the candidate before granting the certification. And as and when the fee changes, the same shall be communicated to all applicants, and consent shall be obtained from the candidate. So this is about the fee structure, because we don't want there should be any discrimination. So we want to ensure that fee structure should be publicly accessible, and the fee structure should be designed without any discrimination. So this was the complete certification process, from initial to grant of certification, then surveillance. We talk about recertification after 5 years, how we can do surveillance, how we will do recertification, and conditions under which you can be suspended or the certificate can be cancelled, and finally the fee structure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Vani, for taking us through this. This was the most interesting one for all of us, because we are all new to that. Now the webinar is open for all question answers. I will invite my colleague, Dr. Sonia Moore. She's the program officer of GCPPCS at THSTI DBT, to take all the questions, question answers, and I will request all the people who are attending to kindly see and address them. When you ask a question, I will request you to just write who are you addressing to. So you can write Jyoti ji, you can write Vani, you can write YK Gupta ji, and we'll try to address. If in the paucity of time, there are less time and we cannot answer you, please ensure that we are very serious about your questions. Sonia will gather all the questions and she will ensure that the answer is sent to you from the experts. And we will continue to do such webinars regularly. Over to you, Sonia. Sonia, are you audible? Sonia, we cannot hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you. I'll be sharing few questions here. A very good afternoon to one and all. This is Dr. Sonia. I'm working as a program officer at THSTI and handling the program GCPPCS. And I thank all the attendees, and it was a wonderful session. I especially thank all the speakers, wonderful speakers, without whom it was impossible, next to impossible. Their expertise was very much required. And am I audible to all? Just one question.
Yeah, you're audible and visible.
So I
You're
would like to
audible and
add one thing, that I was in the back end, I was noting all the questions. I'll do one thing. I'll share the slide here. Just a minute. Is it visible to all? Is it visible?
Yes, Sonia.
Yeah,
You have to make the
yeah.
screen share.
So these are all the questions so far which I've noted, and I'll do one thing. I'll read the question number sequentially, and if the person who has asked the question is there, can unmute himself or herself, and the respective person can answer. Is it fine to all?
Yeah, seems fine.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. So the first question is, who should pay the compensation, especially when the studies are not being done in central and state, individual PI or the institute?
So I will request Dr. Nandini K. Kumar to kindly take this answer. I was just trying to see whether Professor YK Gupta ji has joined back, but
Yeah, and there are some repeat questions also. So kindly ensure that you are hearing all the answers, because due to time constraints, we will answer like one time only.
Can I hear the question again?
yeah, ma'am, who should pay for the compensation, especially when the studies are being done in central and state government institutes?
Yeah.
The individual PI or the institute? First question.
Actually, the ICMR guidelines for regulated clinical trials, we have no problems. But for all other types of research which come under the biomedical health research run in the institutions funded by many agencies, it is the institution which is required to actually take the responsibility. And this is given in the ICMR guidelines. Either they take group insurance or they create a corpus. This is for the institution. And if the investigator is actually applying for a grant, then in that case, just as you have, on the topics like personnel, contingency, overheads, etc., you can have another subhead on compensation and keep a reasonable amount there. For example, if you have 100 people, 100 in the sample size, you don't expect all the 100 to undergo serious adverse event. So depending on the condition, you have an idea as to how many will actually encounter this. And from that point onwards, you can actually calculate and give a rough estimate, because the experts will actually look at the amount and say that, oh, this is not feasible. This is way too high. Or they may say, is this enough? I think the PI can actually increase this amount. So whatever is their recommendation depends on what you have written in that particular head. So these are the three solutions which are offered by the ICMR guidelines. I do understand that this is still a gray area because many institutions are not serious. They have not taken group insurance and not created any corpus also. But they don't understand that this is now mandated through the new drugs and clinical trial rules, where it is stated at clause 15 that all biomedical and health research will actually follow the ICMR guidelines. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for clarifying these doubts. We will keep on having the FAQ, which we are developing to be, revised. And the FAQ should be made in some time in such a way that all your questions should get addressed through FAQ. There's a second question, what is the fee for certification? And I can see somebody has already replied. So, Joriji or Debjani, would you like to take the questions, or Sonia, you'd like to take the question? Thank you, Debjani, for joining from USA. I know that you are not in India and still it is a very weird time for you and still you have joined. Thank you.
Sucheta, the link to the PRCB I have given in the chat box.
Yeah,
so if people
I'll
can
paste it
press
again.
that link, they can go there. The format of application should be available on that. The fee, I think 20,000 rupees, it's written there. That should also be available there. There is only one PRCB right now because I'm seeing a question, are there any personal certification bodies? Yes, there is one. Northeast Christian University right now. So
we are also working to have more PRCBs.
Yes.
So the pricing can be
We'll try.
competitive.
See, it's a demand and supply situation. PRCBs will look for is there business in this? So if more demand is there, in fact, I am just right now messaging some of the PRCBs that we have 300 people participating in this webinar. Some should step in, and I do expect one or two of them to step up. What is the fee for certification? Answered. Where is the format for application? Answered. Are there any personal certification bodies? Answered. What is the fee for GCPS? Is the same. Will PRC provide all material? No, it will not provide material. The competence criteria is there on both the website of the PRCB as well as CDSA website. You can download that. It will tell you what kind of knowledge and is going to be tested. And then you have to acquire that knowledge either through training or by self-reading, whatever way. You're free to do that. Once you apply, can we give exam anytime? I think Vani had mentioned in her presentation that PRCB certainly will wait for at least a reasonable number of candidates. It won't be conducting exam for one or two candidates. So you may have to wait some time. But Vani, did we provide in the process some deadline that within 3 months or 2 months it should be done?
Yeah, within 3 months it should be done. That's there
so within 3 months of application, you should be, irrespective of how many candidates they have, you should be examined. What is the next question? Can you make it font larger, Sonia? It's very small. Can't read. The other one was better.
Sonia, you can go back to the PPT. Otherwise, yeah.
That PPT was better.
This is okay. This is okay. I think.
Okay, now it's okay. Once applied, can we give exam anytime? Yes, that was already answered. Are any study material provided? No. If I am working in ethics committee, will it be considered as GCP working area and no surveillance is applicable to me? I'm not sure about this. Vani, is there anything on surveillance in this, or Devjani?
No.
Do we exempt surveillance anywhere?
Yeah, we exempt surveillance. Now we are saying that if you are showing that you are working in the field of GCP professional, then you are exempted. But I'm not sure if the ethics committee is considered.
Dr. Nandini should tell us that whether being in ethics committee will be considered that.
Yeah, ethics committee doesn't fall under this.
Okay, no. So the answer is no. Okay, next. Next is only a comment. There's a suggestion which has been given. I think we'll have a look at it. The number 12. I think right now it's not possible to answer this. Let's look at that. How will the scheme roll out all over the country? Frankly, it's rolled out all over the country. There's one PRCB which we should conduct exam anywhere. There's no geographical limitation. Yes, there'll be more PRCBs. It will have easier access, which we are trying. What constitutes, this is for Dr. Nandini, I think. Her response to the first question sparked the second question. I saw that. What constitutes a regulatory study or non-regulatory study?
All intervention studies which come under the purview of drug controller are called regulatory studies. And the rest fall under non-regulatory study. And this is in the NDCT rules, it is clubbed as academic trials. But when we say biomedical and health research, it includes all these.
Okay, next, where is the format? Please go to the link of the personal certification body, you'll get the format. When can we expect revised GCP guidelines? I don't know whether Dr. Nandini or Dr. Sucheta can answer
So,
that.
yeah, I will chip in. On 2nd November, I had the opportunity to meet the Dr. Raghuvanshi, who is the present Drugs Controller General of India, and he had definitely in front of me taken an initiative when we mentioned about 2001 is the last GCP guideline and it requires a revision. So I have a belief that it has started working. So let us have the patience and do that. Sonia, your question number 16 and 17 are same, so you can delete one. For the 17, I will invite Dr. Nandini K. Kumar to please answer because I can't see Professor Y.K. Gupta ji. He was interested in SAE.
So the question is, in case of SAE, does the study participant is the study participant eligible to receive any additional compensation apart from the compensation predefined in the consent document? It all depends, suppose it is what is given in the consent document is about compensation for participation, not for injury. And when it comes to injury, the biomedical and health research, whatever is given in the ICMR guidelines is the reporting timelines are almost the same as in the case of regulatory clinical trials. Only difference is how you compensate all, the medical management has to be given to the patient irrespective of whether it is related to the research or not. Once you get to know that it is not related to research, then the patient pays for the rest of the cost. That is common for whether it is regulatory trial or non-regulatory trial. But what happens more than suppose the patient dies, as I told you, it is still a gray area. If group insurance is taken by the institution, that should take care of that. Or if there's a corpus, how that will be actually dispensed will have to be decided by the institution. They should have a policy, what they will do in case of death and things like that, which I am sure most of the institutions have not worked on that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. There's a question now about, Joriji, will you take the questions till we require to chip in?
So what is that? What's the question?
Centralized exam system.
That we have already said we'll take note of that suggestion. The same person is saying that this is my suggestion. Centralized exam removes evaluator's bias.
Yes.
Okay,
Then
move on to the next.
Yeah. Validity of online certificate. I did not understand. If you are mentioning the GCP certificate, then the validity should be specified by the certificate.
It's 5 years, no? It's 5 years in our scheme.
Okay, for the EC members, generally it is 3 years, but most of the certificates actually don't define the period.
Yes.
And I think CDSA used to give GCP certificates for 2 years, I think.
2 years, ma'am. 2 years.
Yeah.
Under GCPPCS, it's 5 years.
Sir, I don't remember whether we have specified this. We will
Yeah, we have. Vani spoke about that. Where is Vani?
Okay.
She said 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
the
after that, we said,
recertification is 5 years and the surveillance will be on the 3rd year.
yeah.
Okay.
So
This is about GCP PCS, but they are asking about the GCP certificate.
For EC members. So that will go in the general, procedure that is followed, GCP training. And generally it is 3 years, but most of the certificates don't define the period.
Some people are asking for study materials. Cheta, I think the study material to my mind would be GCP official Indian GCP number 1, number 2 ICH guidelines, number 3 ISO the standard we referred. These are the
Yes,
three.
plus the syllabus is there. So it is just like when we
Yeah,
take
the
any
syllabus is
advanced
the
examination, the
minimum standard
syllabus
of
is
competence gives the syllabus, so you have to cover that.
there. 20 number question, self-paced learning programs.
Ma'am, I'm updating the questions which are
Yeah.
coming.
I'm just reading the question number 20.
Under GCPPCS, we have the option of online exam, isn't it?
Yes, we
Yes,
have.
yes, we
So
have.
it is possible to give an exam online. Whether there's a need for travel or not will depend on the kind of candidates, etc.
Yeah.
So 21st is probably meant for me. Why
Yeah.
said non-regulatory study EC quorum not mandatory? I think there is a misconception over here. When we say quorum, whether it is regulatory or non-regulatory quorum, in the biomedical and health research, the word used is minimum 5. And the word used in the NDCT rule is at least 5, which means it is not stuck to 5. Suppose you have 20 members and you have 5 as the quorum. That will not be right. What the regulated clinical trials insist is that in the quorum, 5 people should be there as a mandatory requirement. And that is a basic scientist, a clinician, a legal expert, 1 person from the social science area, and 1 layperson. This is mandatory for regulated clinical trials, but it does not mean that it is only 5. You can have more number of people. You can have more clinicians, you can have more basic scientists, and so on, if the number of membership is much more. Have I actually clarified that?
Yes, ma'am, you have clarified. Sonia, can we move to 21st? You have to just scroll down. And 21st is done.
That is
Okay,
what I
22nd.
answered just now.
Yeah. 22nd is there any upper age limit? Jorichi, do you would like to address?
I
All
think
the people
this
who have raised their
this
hands, we
scheme
will
is
take you later
this
on.
scheme right now is not about training. It's going to accredit training institutions, but I don't think there's any upper age limit.
Yeah, we don't have any upper age.
Yeah.
And not only that, for the institution also, there's no age, no?
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
You can't fix an age there.
Yes.
Yeah.
23rd is it possible for a postgraduate candidate in social sciences to apply for the certificate GCP? I think why not? Because we have a social scientist who is an ethics committee member, and this does not prevent somebody, maybe a lay person who is an ethics committee member has to be
Yes,
GCP.
I think the basic level was meant for that. We have only started 1 level. It was meant for any kind of ethics committee member who may have any kind of background.
Yeah, I want to request you not to get confused with evaluators. Vani was telling about who can be the assessors and evaluators, and that's why that postgraduate in medicine and all had come into picture. For GCPPC certification, anybody who is associated with clinical research or trials in any capacity, pharmacist, data management, statisticians, layperson, legal person, they all can aspire for GCPPC. There's a question from Riaz, which I'm going to take, which is saying many of the pharma companies are not taking GCP certificate. Riaz, if you can cite the example and connect me with the people, because CDSU is now very concerned why people are using NIDA and Global Health Certificate. Both are not India made, and both does not address CDSU's 2001 GCP and is not based on NDCT rules. In fact, taking certificates from Global Health and NIDA is absolutely nonsense because they do not address our India specific needs. So we are very serious about it, and I will connect with you, and please send me a list of pharma companies who are doing that. I'd like to rightly speak with them in front of you. Thank you so much, Riaz.
I would like to actually add here. I would like to add here.
Yeah.
Now, NIDA is US based. So if the pharma companies are from US, that's why they might be actually insisting on NIDA. There's no harm in having an extra certificate from NIDA. But if you are an Indian, you should have the Indian certificate.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much for adding that point.
Sucheta, that gives me a clue. We can also write to Indian Drug Manufacturers Association about this scheme
Yes,
so
sir.
that they can share with their members, all pharma companies.
Yes, sir. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that Sanish could not attend this. Sanish is the president of ISCR, and Sanish has been had played an instrumental role in developing the minimum standard of competence. And I would like to acknowledge his efforts towards this. Even the presentation that you saw today was given by Professor Y.K. Gupta ji. It was actually drafted by Sanish when he spoke last time in the webinar. So ISCR is going to take this up. Plus, DCG has invited all the stakeholders for a meeting, which includes ISCR and the Indian Drug Manufacturers Associations and Pharmaceutical Institutes Associations. So I think we are going to take up with this also. Plus, CDSA has been working with on a project called Protect, which we are going to launch soon, and we are working for that to strengthen the ethics committees and investigators in India. Question number 25 to you, Joriji.
It's not a course. GCPPCS is about certification of knowledge, which you already have, what is called recognition of prior knowledge. Under the scheme, we will also accredit training providers. Right now, we have not accredited anybody, but there'll be training providers. We had decided on some duration of training, isn't it?
Yeah, we had decided 2 days and 5 days. We are trying to
2 days and 5 days training, yes. But that will be only when we accredit some.
Yes, we can. So we have a last question, 26. Due to paucity of time, we'll stop at 27. Sonia, please don't take more questions after that. We have one or two people who have raised their hands. We'll take the course question.
They're about more about clinical trials rather than GCPPCS.
Yeah.
Dr. Nandini and you probably will handle that.
So I'll just, Nidhi, Sonia, please could you just keep, ma'am, would you like to take 26 and 27?
Non-physicians like PharmDs considered qualified as principal investigators in clinical trial. Generally, no, because they do not have the medical background because of that. And the other one is, if someone has the GCP certificate, is there a minimum amount compensation he can request for participating in the ethics committee? I understand probably this is honorarium and not compensation.
Yeah.
There is nothing like that. It's an ethics committee, is an institutional policy, how much they will pay the ethics committee members. And sometimes it's the ethics committee which makes the policy and hands it over to the head of the institution for payment purposes. It is both ways it can be worked out. The other thing is, there are some ethics committee, some institutions which very proudly announce that we do not pay any of the members of our ethics committee. They all coming here on altruistic basis, but that is not right. It is given in the ICMR guidelines that they should be given an honorarium for all the work that they do, hard work that they do.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think we draw close to the program. Dr. Raipadakar has raised his hand. We would like to know if you want to say something at this point. Otherwise, we will invite Joriji to give his concluding remarks. Sonia,
Just like to add one thing here. I thank you all. I've mentioned one email ID. It says gcppcs.cdsa@thstI.ras.in. If you have any queries, any questions left because of the constraint of time, you can write it to me. We will be happily answering you there. Okay, over to Joriji. Sir, please continue.
So I assume Dr. Carr is not speaking, although his hand is up. I can't even see him now.
Yeah, I can't see him now. You can stop sharing this, Sonia. And
so thank you, THSTI CDSA, for organizing this webinar. Thank you, all the presenters, Dr. Nandini, Professor Gupta, and Vani. Sucheta, of course, is the driver in CDSA. We always need a good secretariat. I always said that all these schemes cannot run without a good, strong secretariat. And now we have Dr. Sucheta, who was a lone fighter for some time. Now we have Dr. Sonia also as her deputy. So we expect that these two will drive us, all of us, including the chair of steering committee or whoever, They are all driven by the Secretariat. So thank you very much for organizing this. It's a huge success. I could see nearly 300 participants. And so this is the first of the series. We should be doing more such webinars. And in that meantime, we also should double up our efforts to get more PRCBs into our fold and also persuade some training institutions to come in, because I can see from the questions, a lot of people are asking what kind of training, duration, etc. They have an interest in training and acquiring this knowledge. So let's work on both these fronts. Thanks once again to all the participants, because without the participants, we are all wasted. There's no point having a program if there are no participants. They are the most important part of the webinar. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you again sometime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar and Jai
Thank
Hind.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Piyush from the IT team, please could you close the